Welcome to this episode of Feel Known and Be Known in Enneagram Conversation podcast.
I'm Laurel.
And I'm Katrina.
This podcast is all about the Enneagram. So grab a drink, maybe a pen and paper. We're going to dive into what is the Enneagram, what it's good for, and we'll hear from people who use it in their everyday lives.
Do you struggle more with being protective or being controlling? And how can you tell the difference? Is there a difference?
Today we thought we'd talk about parenting and differences that we see in our lives. I've got 3 adult kids and Katrina's got 2 little ones.
So I have a little 10-month-old that is not sleeping. So if you hear background noise, it is most likely, and that will play into my parenting challenges. Laurel, she doesn't have that issue. Can you imagine?
I couldn't imagine it when they were little, but now it's my daily reality. So, Katrina, what are some of the main challenges?
Well, I would say identifying what triggers me as a parent, as an adult. I have a 4-year-old who just started school. And like I mentioned, I have a 10-month-old. So managing or figuring out what triggers me as a parent. For example, I've noticed that when my 10-month-old doesn't sleep and I try to do everything that should help him sleep, he doesn't sleep. And that really zaps my energy. And I may feel triggered by that. And also the 5 p.m. time of day. So when my 4-year-old is maybe overwhelmed, overstimulated, school, and I'm trying to get a nutritious meal ready for my boys, and my baby is whiny and tired, that's a really tricky part. And how do I manage that without getting triggered or saying things I regret later to my kids? Those would probably be the biggest things because that's every day.
I can hear a bunch of type 8 language in there. That's interesting. My parenting looks very different. I have one adult daughter who lives at home and she lives her own life. We interact. We have dinner together, of course, and we interact throughout the day. But her choices are her choices. I'm not telling her what to do, how to do it. She'll ask for advice sometimes, or she'll give me advice when I have struggle. My boys are both married and have their own household. So it's a very different relationship with each of them. The one has 3 children and they live close. So we have their family coming together and coming to our place. We see them right frequently. The other one lives in Europe and we don't see them on a regular basis. They'll call home asking for recipes sometime, but it's not the same kind of reaction. So for me, parenting is more how do I relate to them as my children, but who are grown up and have their own lives, and in one case have their own children that they're relating to. So it's very different because as a parent, once you become a parent, you want to teach them how to sleep. You want to be in their lives. You want to tell them what to eat, how to live. Right? Like you're making crazy mistakes. And when you're in it's your job to help them learn that stuff. In my shoes, like, go away by choice.
Would you say there was a moment in time when you realized that shifted? When you realized it's no longer my job, it's not my responsibility to make sure they eat well, they sleep well?
Yeah. In one sense, from the minute they're born, it's a process of letting go those things and teaching them independence and allowing them to take the independence. So in that sense, there wasn't one moment. There were a series of moments throughout their years. But it's in the high school era when they're picking up that independence, they're doing their own things. There are decisions that they make that they have to live with the consequences, or there are decisions that they're not making that everybody has to live with the consequence.
Right.
It's just a series of letting go. I can't picture an actual moment.
No, and that's fine.
Right? I know when my oldest son was getting married and on their wedding day, I'm like, oh, wow, this is it. Even though there hadn't been stages up, like I'd already released him kind of thing, it was still like, this is it. This is the moment of separation, of final parent-child
relationship
right?
has changed. I find it interesting that you still call it parenting, and maybe it is. Maybe I'd have to discover what the actual definition of parenting is, because for me, I would say my mom is still parenting me, if that makes sense. but you still see it as parenting. Even though you acknowledge that your role has changed.
I'm using that word, but I don't think of it as parenting in a way. It's relating. Still a relationship. I'm still their parent, and they're still my children, even though they're by no means are they children. But then in the same way, I am child of my parent. For me, actually, the conversation goes two ways immediately because it's me parenting my children, but it's also me relating to my parents close by. So we see them regularly. But my relationship to them has evolved over the X number of years since I told them. How much math is that to do? It's too much math. For right
That
now.
is too much. We're not math geniuses. Even Andre thought the following. What would you say is your parenting challenge now that you have adult children?
It's keeping up a relationship with them when they don't live here with me.
So more for your sons.
For my sons, yes. So my daughter lives with us. It's easier just because our lives are intertwined, right? We see her every day. She's part of our hour-to-hour, day-to-day life kind of thing.
Okay.
And the boys there's just a distance there by life.
Right. And that's what you raise your kids to do. You want them to be independent.
Exactly.
Do you? Depending on which culture you're from.
Okay, and that's very true. And so I'm talking in my current culture. There are cultures that would do things very differently.
Right. My husband is from a different culture. Raising your kid to be independent of the parent is actually not encouraged at all. That's not how you do it.
Yeah.
The kid with the parents live with the grandparents. It's multi-generational. You benefit and you help each other and you grow together. And that's life. Whereas I think white culture I'm familiar with, we are raised to be independent. If you still need help from mom and dad, that's kind of, you still mom and dad's basement. That typically has a negative connotation.
It can. Yeah. I feel like it's changing a little bit because it's harder and harder for kids to move, to find a home. The housing market is crazy. So I do feel like there's a bit of a shift. Also, I don't care.
Still, fair enough, whatever.
So it could be my own attitude going into that. If she lives with us, whatever. I'm fine with that.
I have 4 siblings and they are all married and moved out. But I think that is kind of the epitome or what our parents would have raised us to do, successfully, is to be independent from mom and dad. So you don't need their finances. You don't need support. But it's what we are as humans. We need a village. And I think we cut the ties with a village. We aren't a village anymore because we were raised not to be a village.
Exactly. I do agree.
So yes, my challenges are still much in the thick of parenting, being there for each and every need, as needy as it is.
So I said that I could hear some type 8 language in your comment. I was thinking specifically about the idea of feeling like you, as a type 8, have control, are able to be in control of all situations. But you are not able to make your child sleep.
Right.
There's nothing that you can do as a mom to make your 10-month-old sleep.
Right. And I signed up all those subscriptions. You track minute to the minute when he slept, when he wake up. And that's typically not who I am. But he is going to sleep. And, some days, yes, right on cue. Some days, no. And days, like today, no dice at all. It does feel like I have a loss of control.
Yeah. Which for a type 8, that is a trigger.
It is.
Yeah.
Infuriating. On this little human that I can't get. But it's not his fault. It's my own trait that I have to recognize and work through.
Yeah.
And provide the right circumstances. I can provide the right environment. And he's still a person.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he's his own person at this stage necessarily. He is.
He is his own person, but he's in training still.
Right. And so am I.
And so are you. And that's what I meant about from the moment they're born. It's a process of letting go. So you are beginning the process of letting him have his own life, his own choices, even though you don't want that to be the case right now.
He is a podcast co-host right now, and that would not be my choice at all. Yeah. But here we are.
Thinking of myself with type 9, it's important for 9s to belong, to have everybody together. And I always thought of myself and the kid We did everything together. We didn't have family close by when they were little. It wasn't until they became to be teenagers. And so I just got used to taking them everywhere with me. All three of them, they're very close in age. And it was sort of like we were one creature. And I thought of ourselves like an amoeba.
Oh, that's cute. I just picture it. That was mother duck. I think that's a little cuter and fluffier. But amoeba, sure.
A mother duck is cuter and fluffier. This is true. But an amoeba is captured by feelings in the sense of we're still all actually
Right.
attached. I think as a type 9, it's more accurate, which I'd had no
Okay.
idea about when they were little. But as a 9, you want everybody close and in contact and all cuddled up together in one little happy amoeba. Always connected, which was great when they were little. When they began not needing at all and began moving beyond me, there was a time of me going, oh, no, that's fine. One of my kids, especially, I remember, and we're just like birds on a wire. Now we've left the amoeba stage. We've moved, we're birds on a wire, and we're all close together, but he needs space. So he's wiggling his wings, creating space around him. So it didn't bother me. Some of the responses that he would give to me would maybe, if I'd been a different parent, I would have been upset by. But I just felt like, no, he's just making space for himself.
And did he say that analogy? Like he
No,
recognized?
he never said it. That was just my way of processing it. So I've never asked him what his thoughts were on that. If you're listening, let me know, hun. But he may not even remember.
Interesting. I'm just stuck in that trap of parenting. I think I'm like, oh, now that I do know the Enneagram, somewhat, I'm still learning about it, but how do I not let my type dictate my kids? Or how do I parent types who are different from me? There's so many different aspects. Exciting. We're talking about parenting.
And we'll do a couple of episodes on parenting. My guess is it'll come up in almost every conversation we have.
But probably it's a big part of both of our lives. And getting my 10-month-old to sleep really does feel like a control issue. However, I realize that, but I also see it as protection. I need him to sleep. I'm protecting his brain development. He needs sleep. And so sometimes that's a really hard balance. And I don't know. I mean, you have adult children. Do you know when your control is protection or your protection is control?
I would say I no longer feel like I have any control over them. The control aspect was part of the separate, like when it was done, when parenting was done, the control part was done. I would say I still have an element of protection of them. And maybe that's the difference, that the relational aspect, right? I still feel protective over them.
More so than controlled.
Yeah, I don't feel any sense of control. And in any way that idea of control comes up, it's about me controlling myself so that I am not imposing myself on them in any way. So any level of control is a barrier on me that I place to prevent myself from stepping in where I shouldn't.
So more self-control.
And the protection as adult children, the protection comes out in terms of, how are you? Do you need me? Do you need my help? I'm here for you to support you if you want. It comes out as a form of offer of support. I see that in my mom too. Like we just had an incident this weekend where there was a medical emergency in my sister's family. And my mom was very quick to say, do you need me? I will come and be there for emotional support. And that's what happened. She went and she was there for 3 days or so worth of emotional support.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And that is, in a sense, that form of protection.
Do you know what type she is?
She's a type 9 as well.
Okay, I was going to say, that sounds like type 9,
yeah.
but I mean, that could be deep motherhood roots too, that innate need to protect.
Yeah. That would be curious. Now that you're saying that, I'm like, oh, maybe it is because she's a 9. And I think it's normal because I'm a 9.
Like
family, that wouldn't happen.
But I'm even thinking for protection versus control for kids now. So actually, we went tobogganing yesterday. My 4-year-old wants to go sledding, and he only wants to go if he can hit the jump. Now, this jump has much older kids using it. He is by far the youngest one. I actually had a dilemma there. I was like, okay, am I not protecting my kid if I do let him go down? Or is that just me being in control, saying, no, you cannot go down that hill? Or do I let him figure out those boundaries for himself.
And that's going to depend on the kid.
Right. The three of us went, and he had no interest in going with us because we were not going to hit the jump.
He had to go by himself because he knew that you would not do the jump, but he needed to do the jump. And so he had to go by himself.
Right. And even though I'm like, he's 4, he's not wearing a helmet today. And that's a significant jump. Do I let him wipe out, possibly get a concussion?
Right.
Maybe that's the ER nurse speaking.
Yes, that's true.
So it was a dilemma. And I was like, I don't know what to do. Am I being controlling or protective?
Yeah.
And they seem to reverse, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's much clearer for me now because the responsibility for me is to not control because they're adults. But I do remember when they were little and having to make those decisions, right? I was like, let the kids run, let them play outside and go barefoot because that's good. Well, I didn't know it was good for their brain development for them to go barefoot.
Your kids are all so intelligent.
I would go to the park and friends would play. Some of them were much more cautious than we were, and others were way less cautious than we were. I would always feel like, oh, shoot, am I doing it wrong? Should I make sure they're wearing shoes in the sand at the park? Or should I make sure I'm there to catch them at the bottom of the slide? Other parents would just ignore them and let them play. Like,
Right.
oh, maybe that's what I should be doing. I should be just letting them do whatever, and they learn the boundaries for themselves.
Right. And that's where mom guilt really plays in.
It really
That's
does.
a universal language for moms, I think.
Yes.
And even yesterday, my son go down and hit the jump. He's probably not going to tolerate that well. He's probably going to have a massive tantrum. And so now think about it. Was I protecting myself from dealing with the tantrum and being embarrassed by him? Or was I actually letting go of control of the outcome? And as a type 8, that is something I have to work on. I like to be in control. I like to know or dictate the outcome. And in this case of my 4-year-old, I could control if I was going to let him go down the jump and potentially hurt himself. Or I could choose to let go of control and say, these are the possible outcomes, and be okay with that.
So the day-to-day challenges are real, and our types do dictate how we respond to things. I'm also hearing you talk about, I have to learn to let go of that control. I have to learn to do these, which is true. We have to learn and actively work on doing things. But I think what I've been learning in the last decade or so is the idea of noticing what's happening in ourselves instead of trying to force the outcome of, I have to learn to do this and it's going to be like a rule that I live by and this is the way. Sometimes that's what we have to do. Other times it's just allowing what's underneath. Why am I worried about control? Or in my case, why do I feel I need to be attached to my kids? So notice how it feels and notice what's happening inside your body physically, because our body holds on to that tension. In my body, it's usually my gut tenses. And I'm like, okay, what's happening? So learning to say, okay, what's happening? Why is my gut holding on? What am I holding on to? And then allowing that to soften as I notice it. I'm like, okay, I don't want my kids to move away from me. I want to stay attached to them always. So am I going to be okay? Are they going to be okay if we're not attached? Well, yes, because then there's actually freedom for a relationship to grow in a more natural way. So allowing myself to recognize that I'm going to be okay if I'm not attached. The 9 likes to be connected and belong, recognizing that my connection and belonging with my children or with my parents is not dependent on us being actually physically attached all the time. There's still a relationship that can develop and actually needs to develop, right?
And that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And you can recognize that and let go.
Yeah.
And I would say for me, I do feel it deep in my gut, or I have that instinct, but I also feel it a lot on my shoulders. And I wonder if that's because as an 8, I can usually muscle my way through, or I get this sudden burst of energy and tend to feel like, oh, I can make this happen. I will make this happen. That's the control part. So I wonder if I feel that on my shoulder, like I'm getting ready to use them, or it feels like I've already won the battle.
Okay.
in my shoulders. I don't know if that
Yeah.
makes any
Yes.
sense, but sometimes my shoulders literally feel like I did a massive workout.
Somatic experience. It's physical, but not in the way of doing weights, right?
Right.
It's physical in the sense that it's your body. So your muscles are powering up, getting ready to do the thing, or your mind has already gone there and you've already done it. It's just your body has to catch up.
And I wonder, example, in the tobogganing hill yesterday, I'm going to have to physically pick up my 4-year-old kicking and screaming. And I think I already carried that in my shoulders.
Noticing this in your shoulders, that you were prepared to actively pick him up and carry him kicking and screaming, that's the point where you would stop and say, okay, this is what's happening in my body. Can I recognize that I am powered up, ready to go? You just notice it. You just notice and allow. You don't have to do anything about it. You're just noticing it. You allow that exists in your body. And then you move on with whatever needs to happen next.
In case you're wondering, I did not need to pick him up kicking and screaming. I did let him hit the jumps. He loved it. He got some awesome air. He was so proud of himself. And truthfully, I was proud of myself that I let him do that and I could celebrate with him. And there were no head traumas, no concussions. So that was really amazing.
And as we're hearing the 10-month-old crying yet again, we've interrupted ourselves a number of times.
And my shoulders are getting tight again.
If you have ever wondered if you are controlling or protecting your child, we would love to hear your story. Please let me know I'm not alone. So give us a comment wherever you listen to your podcasts.
And we will see you on the next episode of the Feel Known and Be Known podcast with Laurel and Katrina. Thank you again for listening.